much about that, and we've all been wondering whether that's really EMS. So we took samples from 6 locations in Andhra Pradesh, and we sent them to Dr. Leitner's lab, and we analyzed for white spot, IHHNV, TSV, yellowhead, IMNV, EMS, and NHP. And they were negative for everything except EHP. 4 out of the 6 were positive for EHP. Also, white feces in that study were positive for EHP. Also, shrimp with loose shell were positive for EHP. So, at least a portion of what's going on in India is with running mortality syndrome is, we think, related to EHP. Next slide, please. So I think, once again, Robin's covered the main methods of transmission of EHP. Mainly it's oral, passed through the food, but also the same mechanism that happens with EMS, the vertical transmission caused by use of live foods. And the huge factor is that this spore is resistant to chlorination. So when the hatchery thinks it's disinfected its tanks, it really hasn't. It's not effective. Next slide, please. It can be diagnosed by wet mount or histology or PCR, and you see on the top that's using 40x power of the objective. So when you count the 10x that you get from the ocular part of the microscope, it's actually 400. And one on the bottom is 100x, 100 power of the objective, plus the 10x of the ocular makes 1,000. So you can see it even on 40 power. And actually it becomes very fast, very easy, and very efficient. And the Blue Archipelago technicians have learned how to spot EHP and wet mounts. And it's a very fast and efficient way to identify it. Of course, PCR is much more sensitive, but more expensive, and it takes a little more time. Next slide, please. So, the methods for disinfecting a hatchery and a farm are pretty well described in a paper written by Dr. Flegel from Mahidol University, and I'd be happy to forward that document to any of you. It describes exactly what strength of an alkaline solution is needed to disinfect a hatchery. In this case, Dr. Flegel is recommending using sodium hydroxide, but we found here in Malaysia, sodium hydroxide is very difficult to get because it takes a skilled, authorized person to deal with that. And so a better alternative, easier to get, would be an acid here in Malaysia, unless you have a person who's authorized to use sodium hydroxide. And then after the treatment with either high pH or low pH, either one, then using chlorination. Chlorine with acid added is a more active form of chlorination. But this method is laid out in a paper by Dr. Flegel. If you'll approach me afterwards, I'll be happy to send you the document.